Hello, how are you? Today I wanted to talk about um, why I created my model of the four types of anger and kind of how it came about and why it's so important to know about that, especially if you are or if you have been heavily immersed in the whitewashed spiritual healing or coaching industry, and they're always telling you not to be angry, especially if they're in a privileged position, such as if they're white, if they're men, or if they're cis, and you happen to be among the oppressed. And one of the weapons they use for that is your relationship with meaning. And originally, it wasn't a weapon, it was a tool to help you become free from some of your subconscious limiting beliefs that block you from taking certain actions for success in life. Beliefs like, I'm not good enough or I'm not lovable, which, by the way, is systemic conditioning that comes from systemic oppression, such as systemic racism, sexism. And a lot of these teachers don't even acknowledge that. They want you to think that basically it was your parents in your childhood before you were 6 and schooling that brought it upon you. And it's partially true, but who brought it upon them, right? And who else is involved and what else is involved? These are not acknowledged. And I was trained in the Lefko method of removing limiting subconscious limiting beliefs. And then I found out that there are other similar organizations that use this method, such as use the similar methods, such as the Landmark Forum, which is very famous here in the United States. And in Canada and New York, the sex cult Nexium used a similar method that I didn't even know at the time when I was learning all this, and when I eventually came up with my four types of anger as a response or a defense against the way this tool is weaponized. So the way it works is that a negative belief that you still believe in to be true, to your mind, especially to your subconscious mind, there is no difference between that belief and reality. And it's because it's so deep-seated and you've held this for so long. You've believed this since you were a child. And what it is that you gave a response to an event or a series of events in your childhood a specific meaning, such as I'm not good enough, or this happened because I'm not good enough, or I'm not lovable, or I'm not respected or respectable, or even men are not trustworthy or women are not trustworthy. Things like that. And they claim that the event itself is neutral in the sense that it has no meaning because you can give it multiple infinite meanings, including positive meaning. But as a child, you decided to give it this negative limiting meaning to protect yourself. And it's often not acknowledged that this protection is a trauma response that is can be especially a foreign trauma response to appease others. You decided that it's safer for you, for your survival, to behave as if you are truly a person who is not good enough or not worthy or worse than others. so that you want to show that you are not better than others, that you don't have a superiority complex. So it's a lot to do with self-image also, rather than actually being kind or having kind impact. And what happens then, also another dynamic is that this method is often a lot more useful for oppressed people to learn about themselves, to become confident. And I feel that if you use this method on white people or other people in the oppressor class, instead of becoming confident, they can actually end up becoming arrogant. They don't need that much confidence. They already have enough support in society. In fact, what they call confident is actually arrogant, and they believe in such a reverse victimhood type of mentality that our confidence is regarded as arrogance, right, by them. Which is why we decided to give this foreign trauma response a permanence by behaving as if we truly are not good enough people. Hello. And so anyway, so this is the premise. The premise is that this belief I'm not good enough is a meaning you gave an event of your childhood, and that although the event actually happened and the event might have been painful, that the meaning I'm not good enough never actually happened. And so that is a way to help you release your limiting beliefs. And you can sometimes even go even further by turning around and asking yourself, now that you release this belief, this meaning that you literally thought was you or a part of you, and it no longer exists, and you are still you, and yet this belief is no longer you and no longer part of you. So who are you really, since you are still alive without this belief, this meaning that you thought was you? So who are you really? And you can really turn around and have a sort of mini awakening or a glimpse of who you really are using this method. Now there's a next level version of this. Marty Lefko, my teacher who taught me this, invented the occurring process, and that really worried me when he did that, because it was more focused on the release of personal suffering rather than actually not being harmful to people. The occurring process is like a real-time version of this way of removing limiting beliefs, where it helps you release the interpretations, the negative interpretations of events that occur in real time by seeing that the meaning that you're giving never actually happened, although the event happened. However, this is not always true. You're not always just hallucinating or just making stuff up. Sometimes there are actual boundary violations that happen. And methods like the Lefko method and similar methods such as created by Landmark, created by the sex cult Nexium, they don't make these distinctions, because, and there's an agenda here, because as the oppressor class, they're benefiting from you believing that you're just making stuff up all the time when you feel a painful emotion. They don't teach you that sometimes it is a signal telling you that you actually need to change the situation or leave the situation. Right? Either change or leave. And this is why I came up with my model of the 4 types of anger. At first I came up with 3 types of anger, then I came up with 4 types, and now I'm up to about 5 types of anger model. And so I already mentioned the second type, which is, anger from boundary violations. That means that boundary needs to be restored. If somebody punches you in the face and you get angry or you feel hurt, you're not, that anger and that hurt is not just a meaning you're giving a negative event. That anger is real. You actually did get punched, and you really need to, the meaning that you give that event is real, in the sense that it really is time for you to restore your boundary and tell that person to stop punching you, right? To call the cops or whatever needs to be done in that moment. And it doesn't always have to be physical abuse, it can be verbal abuse. If somebody calls you the N-word, it's time for you to, it's perfectly appropriate for you to feel hurt and to stop that, to tell that person to stop. So the tool can be weaponized for gaslighting, basically, trying to make you believe that your reality is not real or didn't happen. That's why I came up with my model of the 4 types of anger. And the third type of anger is when your deepest value gets, your heart virtue, your deepest value that you were born to express and embody and create and hold space in the world for. When that gets violated, you feel a sacred rage. For example, I once saw these 2 cops drag a woman off the bus without even asking her or anybody any questions. They just dragged her off the bus, and everybody was going, "No!" And I felt this rage because it's such a violation of her sovereignty, which is one of my deepest values. It's part of my heart virtue, part of my deepest value of really maintaining the wholeness and the inner unity, and that sovereign wholeness of a person, that coherence of who they actually are. And so that night I restored my deepest value in the world by making a citizen's phone call, a citizen's report, by calling the local police department of that city, Newport Beach, that city directly, and making a report about what actually happened. Now, the 4th type of anger is when you wake up to how much you've been oppressed, to that relationship between systemic oppression and your own internalized repression, how much you have really held on to beliefs such as I'm not good enough, and a whole collection of beliefs, that become your identity as a way of surviving in systemic oppression. And when you wake up to that, that's like the greatest anger, and it is also the most liberating type of anger. And I'm making this video because it's election day, and it's really time for us oppressed people to wake up to that anger. However, to also become aware of the 5th type of anger, which is anger weaponized. It's fake anger, it's not real. And see, that's the reverse victimhood anger of white people, white men, cis men, and thin people. It's anybody who is not in the oppressed category, right? Tall people, when they oppress you and then they demonize you simultaneously and pretend that they're the victims now. Especially when cops shoot black people, for example, and then they claim that they're scared, that they did it because they were scared, which is fucking ridiculous, right? That's an apt example of reverse victimhood. And then they go into a fake anger, a fake outrage, where now we have the situation, for example, of the cop who shot Breonna Taylor is now suing her boyfriend. Not only did he get away with it, he only got charged for the bullets that missed, bullets that might have shot white people in the neighboring house. Now he's suing the boyfriend for shooting him for his self-defense. Again, that's reverse victimhood, fake anger. And in my view, that's the only type of anger that's just not okay. Besides maybe the first type of anger, which comes from a response to to that childhood oppression and the validation of your limiting beliefs. Uh, that's more like frivolous situations, such as if I send a text. I used to get mad if I send a text to somebody and I don't get a response back the same day, and it was because I believed that I was not good enough or that I was not respected. And that event, I took that as a further validation of uh, that belief, which hurt me further than I was already hurt from before, which made me angry. And so even that type of anger is useful because I call it the adult temper tantrum. It's useful because it tells you what you believe about yourself. So that type of anger might be considered unhealthy, but even that type of anger is quite okay. What is not okay at all is that fake outrage of reverse victimhood anger. Alright, thanks for watching Mival and Sandman. That is all. I just made this live because I felt like it, and yeah, I didn't really care if anybody would actually watch it live. Just it was impromptu. It was just actually to post it to IGTV, so that's what I'll do now. Have a great day. If you want some coaching, some Akashic Records readings from me, going deeper into these dynamics, join my 1-year program or join my minimum 3-month program. Okay, I don't do hourly. I charge per result. So contact me with what challenges you have, and avoid asking what do you charge as your first question. That's the least important question, because I don't charge hourly, I charge per result, so it depends on what result that you want. So, and I basically can create a customized program specifically for you. Alright, thank you so much, have a great day.